much for joining us in this session. My name is Crystal, this is Gordy. Thank you for joining us for SERP's Up Live. Thank you all for having us.
So this is a live recording of our podcast, SERP's Up. So that means that we're talking to you, our live audience, but also to our recorded audience who doesn't exist yet, but they will in 2 weeks when this comes out. This, by the way, is not just shameless advertising, but we're actually going to use these during the session to ask you questions. So I'll be asking, Crystal and I will be asking you questions. It's a yes-no question. I'll tell you, hey, hold up green for yes and purple for no. And we can survey you, we can interact with you, we can have a good time together. By the way, I will forget which one I say is yes or no, and I will switch them up. So stay on your toes.
So do we want to do a trial run?
Yeah, let's do, okay. Do you like SEO? Green for yes, purple for, who said no? Serious?
Have we got some PPC people in the place? No.
So the way this works is we have multiple segments on our podcast, and we're going to sort of intro or integrate some of our segments to this live podcast recording with a cool set of guests. First up from our own SEO Hub is the editor of the Hub, our head of SEO editorial, the one, the only, former editor of Search Engine Land, George Nguyen. Welcome to the show. So, this is Unsolved SEO Mysteries, and if you walk out of today's session feeling like we solved these mysteries, then we've done a horrible job. We'll walk away with some context about some mysteries and maybe a bit of answers, but we're not going to solve anything definitively because that's just not how SEO works. It all depends, right? The first thing we wanted to talk about were content trends. I think that sort of sets the stage for today. We're going to be talking about Google updates, we're talking about how to deal with your clients, talking about SGE, because we obviously have to talk about AI at some point, or you'll all just walk out. But we wanted to start off with content trends, and George is a master of creating content, and we thought, hey George, let's talk to you about content, and that'll sort of set the stage for algorithm updates, because algorithms impact content, and clients need content, and SEO revolves around content, and SGE is all right?
Are you trying to sell me
I'm
on
trying
content?
to say content's really important.
I understand that.
Do you?
I mean...
Oh, that's good. Well, that mystery is solved. So that kind of brings us to our first question is really basically what is good content and how quickly does it change? I think that's something that we don't really appreciate, just how much content changes, how quickly it changes. Because what was good yesterday might not be good tomorrow. What do you think, George?
Think about your audience. If you're in like the B2B audience, B2B folk, just raise up the thingy, the flag. There's like maybe 5% of you are B2B. Your audience probably isn't going to change that much. Like it will change over time as technologies develop, but if you're direct to consumer, you are literally changing. It feels like every year. Think about how popular TikTok has become, right? We have some content on TikTok, right?
I don't do TikTok.
Well, Crystal does.
Okay.
Crystal does. But yeah, that's the whole thing. Like good content, it might be good like for somebody who's like me in their mid-30s, a millennial, somebody who likes to read, but for somebody much younger, if I had a kid, maybe that's not the right thing here. So you really have to think about what your audience is, and I feel like it's changing constantly. It's just, what are you able to produce? That really changes the lens. What you're able to do kind of dictates what you consider to be good content. No matter what, like whatever your role is, if you're in an agency or in-house, you view what your success can be primarily through what you're able to accomplish, but you have to be more aspirational than that. Because you look at all those other brands, and that's what they're doing.
So would you say that you define like good content by whether or not it's helpful?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, definitely like relevance, all the stuff that Google says, but I feel like we're at a point where how much more optimizing, how much more helpful if you ask me a question, just like right now, there's a million ways I can answer it, just like I am sort of answering it for this podcast. But are you going to write content that same way? And you have to choose a way. And that all comes down to your audience.
Yeah, because what's helpful for one audience is not helpful for the other audience. And I think to answer like what is helpful content, because Google's not going to tell us what helpful content is exactly, it really all depends on what you're trying to achieve, who your target audience is. I think it comes down to empathy. If you can really understand and really empathize with your audience, and I think predict what their needs are going to be. So when I write content, I guess I'm okay at content, but then George edits it, makes it much better. But one of the things I try to do is like really predict, okay, so if someone's reading this, And are they going to have a difficult time with this sentence? Does this concept need to be explained? Does it need to have a link so that they can go explore what exactly I'm talking about? Because I can't cover it right here. And I think being able to predict the pain points and the problems that your audience is going to have with your content makes it helpful.
Right.
Is that helpful?
I think that's helpful, but here's a question to the audience. Do you think that helpful content actually ranks?
Loaded
Green
question.
for yes, blue or purple for no. Okay, so I think we've got a lot of greens. We've got a lot of greens. I'd probably say that was 75% green on that. So that I think is good, and I think that comes down to people seeing the way that users respond to content that adds value in a helpful kind of way. Is that something you've seen as well, George?
I think that the fundamental basis of what helpful content isn't going to change between like me and you talking about it to what it is on the internet. Like, are you answering the question? Think about all that relevance. When somebody, like your partner, is just asking you a question, hey, what do you want to have for dinner? And you start contextualizing, well, I had this for lunch. That's not helpful. Remember, right? Like the same thing. You have a question like, oh, what is a meta title? Like, well, before the internet, that's not helpful.
Right.
You need the answer up front. Those things aren't going to change. The way that we approach that has changed a little bit, but we demand answers immediately, and so that's always going to be what's happening.
But on that idea of it not changing, at a certain point, like things do evolve and things do change. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the idea of like, does SEO impact content trends, or do wider content trends impact SEO?
It's like a chicken and the egg thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the listicle. How many of you just raise the flag here if you spend time optimizing listicles still this day and age? Don't lie to me, right? We're not above this. Okay?
Thank you for saying no.
Yeah. Okay.
I love listicles. I'm not gonna lie.
We have a debate about this.
I love listicles.
I hate listicles.
I love a list.
They're the worst.
I love a list. I like to be able to scan and then pick the thing I want to invest my time in.
When Danny Sullivan goes on Twitter, X, whatever, he's like, yeah, unhelpful content. Let me show you an example. It's a listicle.
But I find them helpful because like I will go through and I go, I know all of those. Oh, I don't know that one. Oh, I'll check that out. Like,
Agree to disagree.
There we go.
Like,
there you go. Agree.
You always have
like
these
that.
situations where there's like, okay, listicles, well, where is that in this debate? Or even recipes, like your blog recipes, right? All the SEO in the world, all the guidance that we tell people, like, well, you're not leading with the main content, and that's for other considerations, right? I feel like there's a giant influence, especially nowadays, think about what's ranking in terms of like Axios. They publish incredibly concise, short content. It's well optimized, and that's what it's built to do. I feel like, I don't know if you can hear this from the recording, but there's the Star Wars theme playing in the background. It's both fueling me, but also making it very hard to concentrate. And if you're distracted, I don't blame you for that. But yeah, there's definitely an overlap here, especially as the publishers, the people, the C-suite becomes more aware of SEO and the importance of ranking. That one position might be millions of dollars for you on the SERP, right? Of course it's going to influence because you need to make money, ultimately. But then it's kind of different if you're doing it for branding. Then it looks different. And then there's Google's vision of it and Bing's vision of it, where it's like index now. There's so much there.
I think like one of the things that's interesting though is like RankBrain. RankBrain is literally built to assimilate how people, RankBrain is a Google machine learning property, and it's literally, well, part of what it's built to do is basically look at how users are behaving and assimilate that into their machine learning process and now change what ranks based upon what people want.
Yeah.
So when content trends, I was doing an article or something, I don't remember, and I went to the Wayback Machine, and it was a product review, like best microwave content. And the page now has the word our and we 150 times. If you go back, 2-3 years ago, it only had it 8 times.
Right.
So I don't know if that was an SEO saying, oh, we think Google has the E for experience, let's like add a bunch of our and we to the content. But it could also just be like content has changed and people are writing in a different style, and Google does realize that. That's literally what RankBrain is built to do. And those things get assimilated into the algorithm, and the algorithm is changing based upon what users are doing.
I think it has a lot to do with like the competitive landscape. I think we're all, as SEOs, we're all working in a competitive landscape. Like the content that we make doesn't exist in a vacuum. So if you see that there's a trend that lots of people in your sector or in your vertical are using lots of video, for instance, and then you're not using video, then it becomes a question of satisfying customer demand, satisfying customer expectations, and remaining competitive there. So I think that content trends, like you said, it's like chicken and an egg. I think they sort of pull and push at the same time with those
We will develop any tactic. We will test any tactic because we're working with content at scale, right? So if that's the case and you just want to outrank someone and you have all this time to try to do that, of course, SEOs are going to find a way to push the limits of content, create new formats, and that's how we're going to affect it. And then eventually we're going to take that and be like, look at what I did, and then speak about it on stage at a conference, right? That's how the game works, essentially.
There you go.
Well, thank you, George, for coming on our podcast. I'll see you around the office.
Every meeting is like this, pretty much.
Yeah, we get nothing done.
Yeah.
And for the first like 10 minutes, like the other people in the meeting was like, hey, enough jokes. Like you have to like stop. We have to do work now.
Okay.
Can I go?
Yeah, you can go.
I did want to say one thing. This is the first session of the morning. I really appreciate you showing up here. I'll be at the Wix booth in between sessions, and if you don't know anyone, if you're here alone, feel free to come by, say hi, you know me. Thank you very much. Why do you...
Although we have coconut
It was
candy.
all good until you said
We
that.
have lots of candy.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, George.
So we do a little like, segment on the podcast we call Is It New? A la Barry Schwartz. And we sometimes go through different changes to the SERP and wondering if they're new. They never are, by the way, but we try to explore like the impact of their new-ish status. But in this case, we're doing something a little bit different with this segment. We're taking a look at algorithm updates because I think the entire landscape is new. So this is a very special version of Is This New? It's the Google algorithm update version of Is This New? And to help us, we have the founder of Mobile Moxie herself. She's an SEO legend. I would say an SEO OG.
She's like fantastic. I met Cindy. Well, we know. We met
It's Cindy Krum, by the way.
Cindy Krum. I met her yesterday, and I literally screamed, a full fangirl, which I'm not ashamed
Can we
of.
reenact that?
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. But yeah, I'm so honored, so pleased, and you're in for a real treat because Cindy is amazing. And here she comes to the stage now.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
That chair is really comfortable, by the way.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome
How are
to-
you guys doing?
I'm jet lagged.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah. I
Nice.
mean, not as jet lagged as you.
You all had snow last week.
We did a lot of snow.
That's nuts.
Got down to 11 degrees.
Wow. Okay, so like it's a podcast, we have the banter, I feel like. Just to explain that. So let's kick this off about the algorithm updates. Let's ask the audience first, like, do you see more rank volatility? Is rank more volatile than it normally is? Green if you think rank is more volatile, purple if you think it's not. Everyone for the audio audience, everyone except for Michelle
Universal.
Forden said rank is more volatile than it was before. I feel like it's always that way,
I
right?
mean, we've had
Yes.
another core update since the conference started, so like, yeah, I think.
There's been
Yeah.
5 in the last 5 minutes.
There's
It's constant.
And a review update, another spam update. And it's been crazy, right?
Yes.
There was the August core update, then there was a helpful content update in September, then a spam update in October, another core update in October, another core update in November, and now a review update.
Well, now they're overlapping them, so you
Yeah.
can't really identify or know for sure which impacted what and when and stuff like that, if it did at all. Although the good news is, I think, in general, the rule, for me at least, still seems to be if you're doing really good, clean SEO strategy and not really pushing the boundaries of the guidelines, then you don't get impacted by these things.
Right.
Is that what you guys are seeing? Can I ask audience questions?
Yes.
Sure.
Green for if that's what you're seeing, like if you're, okay.
Generally keeping
Good
it
content.
There's some purple, people
Right.
who disagree, you're doing good content and following all the rules, but you're getting bouncy stuff.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I think some verticals are finding that more than others.
That's true, yeah.
Also, sometimes keywords are just like that.
Yes,
They're
some
just
keywords are more
volatile keywords
volatile.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's something that you talked about being able to diagnose the impact of the different updates, and I know that you can be very scientific with the way you break all of that down. Do you find that to be challenging for clients and things like that?
Well, like I said, I haven't had a lot of clients who've been massively impacted, but I do find that clients are getting bored of hearing me like freak out and be like, there's an update and I just checked and everything looks fine, don't worry about it. And they're like, yeah, it's always fine. But they're kind of getting, it's the boy who cried wolf kind of story. It's like, we used to have a couple updates a year or a couple major updates a year, and we would make a big deal and be like, no, I think everything's fine, and we'd look really, really detailed. Now they're coming so fast that you can look, but you can't get too detailed, and you're like, no, looks fine, it's good.
Is that the new norm? Like, is this the new norm?
Well, I think so. What I've been saying is that I think that part of what Google was going for when they switched from old school crawling indexing to mobile first indexing was this ability to make changes faster.
Right.
Because remember, like if it was about crawling, they would have called it mobile first crawling. It was about indexing, and they've changed the index to make it, I think, more flexible and easier to change.
And now they have, so the review update is going to be real time, basically. They're not going to announce future updates.
Yeah.
And it's going to just be like a basic
ongoing
constant
rolling.
ongoing. So
Yeah.
it's like almost like Penguin.
And I think that we should expect to see more of that with regular updates too. It'll just be like they don't necessarily have to announce everything, and I think we're already seeing that things are going live and things are changing in an ongoing way. They're not always announcing it.
You heard it here first. The core updates, I don't think they're going to keep announcing them. I think they're just going to put them real time, like the review update, which is going to be scary because you're not going to be able to figure out what's going on exactly.
I think they may try and pull back and slow them down just so that people don't freak out, but they're still doing them. They're just not announcing all of them. But I think Google's fighting an interesting battle because they're trying to look like they're being more transparent in ways that get them out of like legal problems that they might or might not be having. So they want to look like they're being transparent, but without being too transparent to make things too gameable. So they roll things out quietly sometimes, and then if there's a risk it's going to be a big fuss, then they'll give you a heads up and be like, hey, next week this is happening, so they can say, oh no, we warned you, you know?
So sometimes within like SEO chatter, you hear people talk about like unconfirmed updates.
Yeah.
Is that something that you pay attention to? Is that something that you think about?
Yes, I definitely have seen unconfirmed updates, especially around things that are highly regulated. You see Google kind of change their mind about how they feel about this topic or that topic, and or changing just their understanding of a topic. Is this an informational query versus is this an e-commerce query?
Do you, by the way, so an unconfirmed update, Google, like it's supposed to say a core update where they now announce them and they say, okay, it's coming. There's constant volatility, and we generally either see that in our own rankings or the SEO weather tools, right? So you have Mozcast and December Sensor and the Grumper, whatever. It's all these like names for all these tools. I'm curious, this is a controversial question. And if you're from one of the tools in here, this is probably one you want to pay attention to. Do you trust the SEO weather tools? When they say, oh, there's a spike in rank volatility, there's an update, there's something going on, do you believe them? Green for yes. I believe the SEO weather tools.
Purple for no.
Purple for no, and it's a mixed bag.
That's more purple than I expected.
That's a lot more purple than I expected. And I think by the way, each tool is a little bit problematic. I've worked on 2 of them. And the inside scoop is there's different keyword sets. Some are, Moz is very transparent, by the way. They'll tell you that Mozcast is built in high search volume keywords. So like December Sensor is, much more diverse in with the type of keyword and there's a case for each way of doing it. But it is interesting that people don't trust them as much as they used to.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is that they're always on. There's always something going on, and you really believe something's really happening. I think I have a wild theory about some of this. I'm curious what you think. I think a lot of the spikes in volatility that are not part of a confirmed update is machine learning basically recalibrating. It's saying, okay, I'm implementing X. Let me see if that works. Let's try Y and reverse it and see which one is better. Okay, let's go with the X.
Yep, and you like hit a threshold, and that threshold is like a signal to the algorithm to recalibrate or reevaluate. I think that's true. I think though that, let's say we have a tool that measures these things and we realize that we've totally missed this whole industry, or there's a new industry popping up that didn't exist, like TikTok creators, studios, whatever, and we have to add a bunch of keywords. Adding this infusion of new keywords changes the model entirely.
Yeah.
And so, and unless there's a lot of transparency about that, you don't realize. Right. But I think the weather tools also sometimes miss some things that might be very important to people, to SEOs, because they are trying to find signal from noise. They omit what they think is noise, but might not be noise for you. So something that I'm going to show in my talk tomorrow is I have a tool that grabs a screenshot, like full screenshot of mobile search results every single day for a particular keyword in a particular area on the same phone. It's pretty like standardized. And what I saw in testing is that even if your position can stay the same, the presentation of the position can change day by day.
Entirely.
Where today it's one big picture, tomorrow it's 2 pictures, then it's a grid of 4 with the thing over here. And it's always, potentially in the same position, not always in the same position.
Right.
But I think that the weather tools might call that noise, not signal, but for you, that's signal.
Yeah,
Right.
entirely.
And they totally miss them. They don't track that.
Or they want to, because they've got to show something that's statistically
Right.
relevant for everyone, and that's only relevant for you.
Right.
So you've got to take everything with a grain of salt with the weather tools.
I think absolutely, and I think particularly on mobile, there's only so much real estate on a screen, as you know.
Yeah.
So if there's a new SERP feature that pops up that takes up 30% of the screen, that's really going to affect your click-through rate. So even if you're ranking number 1, if you're below the SERP feature, then that's not. Really
And you can see situations where they're ranking number 1 consistently, but the click-through rate is across the, all over the place. And maybe it's because of the images or, how it's presented, or things that might not come into every single weather tool. Like what if the weather tools aren't checking pixels from the top, and there's a knowledge graph that shows up all of a sudden, or there's people also ask above it today, and so click-through rate tanks because everyone's clicking on people also ask.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I like to look at all that kind of data very directionally. Like, it's not telling you anything in specific. It's okay, something might be going on here. It's like a red flag kind of thing. I wouldn't put too much stock in what they show. I know it's a little controversial.
Well, I think you can take stock and say, when they're red, stuff's changing.
Yeah, no, that's right.
But
That's
when
true.
they're green,
Really-
stuff might still be changing.
Right.
Also, something to know about the weather tools, they all recalibrate after 20 or 30 days, because if they didn't, what would inevitably happen is it would be red the entire way through. So I actually just looked at a bunch of data on this. If you look at 2022 and 2021, there's not much of a difference in the rank fluctuations. They're kind of on average. If you go into 2023, the beginning part of 2023 looked very similar to 2022. This actually ties into what I want to get into in a minute about AI. But when you hit the summer, the end of the spring in 2023, rank started going bonkers, right? So let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, how high was rank volatility? March, January through March, January through April was like a 3. When you got to, let's say, May, and you started going through the summer on a scale of 1 to 10, the level of volatility was an 8. The tools were still green because they recalibrate. 8 was a new normal. So you're looking at the tool, you're like, oh, it's green, everything's fine. But if you compare it to what rank was a few months ago, it's extreme. The green now is way more volatile than the red back in January.
Okay, so that's fascinating. But also, I think I want to talk about a little bit your choice of terms, rank volatility versus SERP volatility, because rank is specifying a numeric evaluation that is, used to be 1 through 10 or whatever. And I think that Google has kind of persuaded us to ignore things that matter when we're counting ranks. Because they're like, don't worry about the paid stuff up there, and don't worry about the knowledge graph, and don't worry about people also ask. Those things don't rank, but they do. They push everything down. And so I think talking about rank volatility versus SERP volatility, and maybe pixels from the top, or some kind of more universal metric where we can agree that every pixel counts, or everything, pretending that a knowledge graph that's above you doesn't count is a lie. It counts, and it's taking traffic.
Right, even if you're tracking by pixel, you don't see it. It's on a desktop. It's on the right-hand side.
Right, but on mobile,
Did you see, by the way, it was a Search Engine Land article. They were talking about, it was part of the whole antitrust, DOJ trial thing, which was going on, which is fascinating. And some kind of document came out where it was Ben Gomes, I think, a former VP of search there. It's we can get more ad clicks if we add refinement to the SERP and more filtered. And if you fast forward to now, the SERP is filled with filters.
It's all
Broaden this
filters.
search, refine this search, the bubble filters on top. People also search for, people also ask. There's tons of filtering going on.
Well, and what you need to notice when you click any of those filters that are on your screen, especially desktop, is that it's executing a new search and showing new ads.
Yeah.
Like this is a monetization strategy. Don't ever forget that Google's a business that's trying to make money.
I do like the filters though.
The filters can be nice.
Like do you like the filters on the SERP?
Yes.
Yes, if it's green for yes. People like filters.
Okay, but here's the thing. The other thing, so filters do two things for Google. Filters get them the ability to show a new search result, increase their search volume, and say, oh, we're getting loads more searches because that's a new search because you filtered it, and show more ads. But also filters, I think, and people can tell me I'm wrong and people can make fun of me. I've always been bullish on voice search, but filters are the future of voice search because if you think about like a phone tree when you're calling in to change your insurance or whatever, they're like, press 1 for this or press 2 for that. Those are filters. And you're going to be able to do that with voice, with your Google Assistant or whatever, where they say, do you want to do this or that? Or do you want to see, this kind of filter versus that kind of filter? And when they predetermine what your choices are, it's easier for them to latch in and preload or know what they're going to show. Right. And then you don't go off the rails and come up with something that they hadn't thought of. They're like coaxing you into something that they can answer instead of something that they potentially can't.
So as a serial podcaster, I pride myself on my pivots. And I don't have one right now.
Is my time up? That's what you're saying?
No, I want to talk about AI.
Oh, okay.
I feel we have to talk about AI. So do you think that a lot of the rank is incredibly more volatile since the summer, basically? How much of that do you think is AI? But before we answer that, dear audience, do you believe Google when they say that they're not targeting AI content?
So green.
Green if you believe Google, purple if you don't. There's one person
Not a lot of trust
there's
in
a
this
lot of
group.
purple.
way in the back
There's a lot of
who
purple.
trusts Google that they're not targeting AI content. Even Michelle doesn't believe Google. Which
No,
is,
I don't.
I don't believe them either, by
I
the
don't
way.
either.
Like, they're definitely targeting AI content.
Well, I mean, they like to mince words and get really detailed in what
Right.
targeting means.
Right.
Like they're just saying like,
All
we like the
low
best
content.
content and we make AI content too. And if we're going to show AI content, why not ours?
So I have a theory about this. Like Google can't say for their stock pricing that we're anti-AI.
Yes, they cannot.
So we'll just say, no, we're not targeting AI content. We're targeting low quality content, pre-med, pre-law, same difference.
yes,
So
exactly.
What I think is interesting about this, though, is that what I've seen is that on the one hand, I know that there's a lot of people within the affiliate space who have been really struggling with this. They've been making a lot of bulk content via AI, and they've been getting a lot of traffic, and then sort of like then a lot of volatility. But then what I've also seen is teams like, for instance, LinkedIn's like they've got these community posts. And it says right at the top, this is an AI-generated article. If people haven't seen these, essentially they have a collection, and they'll say the topic is AI content, for instance, and then they'll have machine-generated content, and then they'll have spaces for people to contribute answers, individual answers. Those pages rank for tons of keywords, and they have done since April. So it's very interesting. They seem to be sort of trying to hedge how they're managing that content. Are you seeing that across the space as well?
I mean, yes, but I don't know if it's an intentional effort to hedge. I think that they will also be studying what's ranking in their algorithm, and then they'll do it better. Okay. Because that's their model, and they can show ads on that. But when you get to a LinkedIn thing, LinkedIn's making money instead of Google, right?
Right.
And so Google, like they've said for years that they don't always know exactly how an algorithm is going to impact results. Like it's not a guaranteed thing, and it can change over time. And so when they push the button to roll something out, they're watching too, and that's why there are rollbacks. Where they're like, oh, that went a little bit too far. Like,
by the way, another like to piggyback on the rank volatility. When you see the tools go, you don't know if that's a reversal and there's really no net or gain or loss.
Yeah, I mean, it's still bad for the month or whatever that you were
Right.
down. But yeah, for Google, they're looking at things in a much longer term, and they're like, whatever.
I think, by the way, so like there's been a ton of volatility on the SERP since the summer, basically. And I think a lot of it, you know what it reminds me of? Because I've been tracking this stuff religiously for like years. It reminds me of COVID. When
Yes.
COVID hit, the SERP went bonkers.
It totally did.
Because they couldn't figure it out.
Totally new industries popping up, new things.
Terms didn't mean the
Yeah,
same things
terms meant
anymore.
different
Intent
things.
totally switched. And I think what's happening is a perfect storm. There's a ton of more content because of AI.
Yep.
It needs to figure out, like, do we want to actually rank this? And to tie into what George, there's a method to my madness. To tie into what George was talking about before, content trends are changing.
Yeah.
People are looking, they didn't pull experience out of their ass for EEAT.
Content trends and content creation trends are
Yeah.
both changing, and so the algorithm
People
has
want
to keep
experience, and Google's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's integrate
Yeah.
into the algorithm.
Yeah.
So everything's changing, and I think Google's having a really hard time figuring it out.
So I think that what's going to make the difference in the future, potentially, is like, so Google's got this horrible situation where they've got, let's say, there's 5,000 dentists in the United States, and every of one of those 5,000 dentists think that they have to write an article about why it's important to floss.
Right.
Okay? And like, how
By the way,
different
no
are
one
those?
flosses anyway, no matter how many times they write it, right? Green if you floss. No, I'm just kidding.
I floss sometimes. But so all 5,000 are writing basically the same article about why it's important to floss. How is Google going to choose which of those 5,000 should rank? And maybe it could. Maybe one or two of those dentists is writing a vastly superior article. Or maybe one or two of the dentists has a song that's going to get stuck in your head to remind you to floss. Or maybe there's only 3 dentists and in this area, so they want to rank a local dentist. I think context and connection is going to be the new ranking factor that they're going to try and do. And so like influencer marketing, super important, but not something we talk about as much in SEO. But I think that like for a listicle, if I was writing a listicle about my favorite travel hacks and things on Amazon that you could buy,
Right.
like you would be like, I know Cindy, and she travels like a mad woman, and she knows this, but if I were like, if you knew someone else who had like 5 kids, which I do not, by the way, and you had 5 kids, you'd be like, I know that woman, and she has to deal with what I have to deal with, and so that kind of more personalization, more context of who you are and who is recommending whatever, or where they are, or what what's going to resonate with you, like the song to remember flossing or whatever.
Song? Do you know a song?
No.
No.
Does anyone?
I wish there was a song. If you're doing SEO for a dentist, like it would totally help to have like a song.
It would help.
Yeah.
Like something like a going to the chapel. That's it's gonna get stuck in everyone's head. You're welcome.
As long as it doesn't get stuck in your teeth.
Yeah.
There you go. On that bombshell, thank you so much for joining us and for talking about this fantastic subject. Give us a big hand for Cindy.
Yay! Now you want me over there, right?
Yeah. With rank being bonkers and with content changing, one of the problems are clients and communicating all of this to clients. So we're going to take a deep thought into how you're going to be communicating with clients and how to get buy-in for clients and how to deal with the clients and all the stuff for the clients. With the master of disaster himself, the one, the only, the COO of Search Lab Digital. Give it up for Greg freaking Gifford.
I feel like you moved over because you don't want to sit.
I want to see.
So I need to razz you. Like, you're sea level now?
Yeah.
Wow. You have like your own corner office and stuff?
Yeah, kind of.
Is it
Only because I'm on the corner of a hallway.
Oh, is it in your house?
No, I have like an office. I can't work out of my house. I got too many kids
So you have
and
like an
pets, and my wife doesn't get that like I'm working and I can't go do
I
stuff.
have the same problem. Like my kids, like, oh, they'll like bang on the door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
regularly
they don't
just
take no
come
for
into the
it. They
meeting.
come into our meetings all
All
the
the
time.
time.
Yeah,
All the
I just give up.
It's
I'm
fine.
old school. Like I need to be somewhere separate where I can like mentally separate work from home.
Nice.
So when I'm
So-
home, anyway.
Sea levelness aside, clients, it's a little complicated because if there's so much volatility, if the SERP is changing, content is changing, everything's always changing. Like imagine like, hey, like Cindy was talking about, right? The November update, 2 November updates, 3 October updates. At a certain point, like, do they just not believe you anymore?
So yeah, so we get the vast majority of our clients call us freaking out. Oh my God, I saw that there's an update today. What are we doing to address it? And we're like, bro, we don't even know that it's affecting you yet. Slow your roll, calm down. It's fine. And then they're like, and then we're like, okay, well, and we don't share. Can I do a question?
Yeah.
Green if you share ranking data with clients. How many people do? And purple if you don't.
Lots of
greens.
I saw somebody arm up with the
We
purple.
do not share ranking data with clients. We in fact refuse to. Even if clients ask for it, we say we won't.
Why?
Because, can I use adult language on this?
Yeah, we'll edit it out of the podcast.
This would be like lots of beeps right here, folks. No, I think ranking data is a complete vanity metric, and it doesn't mean anything to a client's bottom line. And what's the point of sharing rank data? Like, I've had clients in the past that we, in a space of 12 months, tripled their organic traffic, doubled their leads. Every month was a record-setting month for sales, yet they still canceled with us because the owner of the company wanted to rank for some vanity term that wouldn't have gotten traffic anyway. Like, no human would ever search for it, but all he cared about was, do I rank #1 for this term?
Okay.
That's all
So
that
he
matters.
cancels.
No.
So like that's why we don't get into ranking data. So when our clients freak out, they're like blah 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 blah, and we're like, look, we have rank tracking running. You know we won't share it with you. You're fine. Nothing even changed.
Yeah.
So-
but honestly, like I'm like having like PTSD over this because like I've definitely had clients like that who it was like a little financial firm and they wanted to rank for like financial advisors, and I'm like, you're not gonna rank for that.
Yeah, we had this one guy that was like, I want to rank #1 for Toyota Camry, and I'm like,
Are you Toyota?
and this is also a guy that was complaining that $3,000 a month for SEO was too expensive. And he spent $1,500 a month on paid search. So in his mind, between like the $3,000 of SEO and the $1,500 for management fee, and then I think it was like a $500 management fee at that agency. So he's like, I'm spending $5,000 a month. I should be #1 for Toyota Camry. And we're like, bro, it doesn't work that way. And then we try to explain to him like, hey man, look, Toyota's gonna rank for that. You don't have more money. He goes, no, it doesn't matter because there's no way Toyota's spending $6,000 a month on SEO. I should be #1. And we're like, buddy, like, no. So yeah, so like we do get those calls where clients are freaking out because they hear about all these updates lately. But I think we're a little bit insulated because we only do local SEO, and a lot of these updates, like you'll get a lot of fluctuation for maybe a day or two when the update's rolling out, but a week later, once everything's kind of settled in, we really don't see much of an effect for our clients.
Are you seeing, Cindy? Is it harder for you to communicate with the clients because there's so many updates?
So I do it a little bit differently. So I don't have clients coming to me going, oh my God, there's an update, because they're not paying attention to SEO. Like I go to them and be like, hey guys, there was an update, I've checked, it seems like you're fine, but let's just keep an eye on things and watch closely. So it's a little bit different, but then I don't have anyone who thinks that they should rank for Toyota Camry, so it might be just a different kind of client.
The day that SGE was released to beta, where we could finally all like apply to get in and see it, we had 3 clients call us and go, what's your SGE strategy for us? What are you doing? And I'm like, bro, it came out today. We don't have a strategy for you. And then like we had a client last week call us and go, what's my SGE strategy? And I'm like, bro, we do not care about SGE and we're not going to talk about it with you because most likely it is not coming out for at least another year or two.
Right.
And like, it's SEO. It's let's do marketing. Let's release the stuff that answers the client's questions, that's going to bring them to you because you have the solution. It's just like the voice search thing years ago. Everybody's like, oh my God, voice search, what do we do? And like, nothing changed.
It's so funny because your approach is the opposite of my approach. My approach would be like, dude, we've been doing SGE strategy, like everything that we've been doing to get featured snippets and to have stuff that's easy to parse and easy to understand. That is what's going to help SGE. Like this is baked in.
But like our clients don't get featured snippets. We're like, bro, we just got you this amazing snippet. Look at, and like we can track. A lot of people. Okay, another question. Let's be interactive.
Right, okay.
Green if you think getting a featured snippet takes traffic away. Purple if you think getting a featured snippet gives you more traffic. I'm really curious.
Okay.
More purples, which that's
I love this.
I'm a purple too
I'm
because
a purple.
we've tracked it, and
Purple,
like we'll get a
absolutely.
featured snippet for like, how do you hook up Apple CarPlay and a Kia Soul or something related to a car. You get it, and like you can track because it's going to that page, and all of a sudden your traffic just goes like this.
Yep. Right.
And we tell them, hey, we got this, and they're like, nobody's gonna search for that. I don't care. I want to rank #1 for this, and they're like.
Where's the Toyota Camry,
That's why we just
Greg?
don't get into the rank tracking stuff.
Right.
Wow.
Like,
If I could ask the audience, do you have a harder time communicating with all these things going on with your clients now because of all this stuff? Green if you have a harder time communicating with clients, and purple if you having to use
You got a lot of
time.
arms up
It's
very
a lot
high
of
with
green.
the green.
It's
There, a lot of purple. And
We had a client that was like, they're a little bit more advanced. They understand kind of the SERP layout more. And this was like April or May. They called us up like, hey man, there's this people also ask section. Like, do you guys have a strategy for that? Are you doing anything for that? And I'm like, no.
Do they ask you for every SERP feature what your strategy
And
is?
they're like, what's our strategy? And like, this was a
Do you
guy.
have a related search strategy?
And like, I don't like, not like, oh my God, I'm awesome, I'm C-suite, but like, I don't really talk to clients anymore, which is actually really badass that I don't have to talk to clients. I don't deal with a lot of this crap. But this was a guy that I've known for like 10 years who is a client. So like, yeah, I'll talk to you, right? And he's like, what's our strategy there? I'm like, I don't have a strategy. He's like, what? You guys are awesome. Like, you've done so much good work. How are you ignoring this? And I'm like, all right, bro, let's jump on a Zoom. We jump on a Zoom. I'm like, let's do a screen share. Let's do a search for whatever your term is. And it was a dealership term. And he shows up and there's like 5 PAA questions. And I'm like, let's click on this one. Oh, look who ranks #1 for that. Let's go back. Let's click on the second. Oh, look who ranks #1 for that. I'm like, dude, you already rank because we're doing SEO the right way. We're not doing SEO for Google. We're doing SEO for your clients so that you're going to be the answer for what people are looking for. And that's the right way to do it. And you don't have to worry about what is this tricky thing that we're doing now just for this one update that just happened, because that's not sustainable for long term.
So I feel like you have strong feelings about clients. I'm getting that.
I mean, I love
Is
clients.
anybody else getting that vibe? Like strong feelings about.
I love clients. I just get really spun up when I just keep getting these like really asinine questions. And I get it, they're curious, but like, what are you doing for SGE when it came out 4 hours ago? Like, come on, don't waste my time with
So
questions
then what
like
kind
that.
of client do you think is going to be more successful now?
I mean, I think for us, the clients that are the most successful are the ones that are actually engaged. Because there's a lot of people that will do SEO and do paid search and do marketing because they know they need to, but it's like pulling teeth to get them on the phone. To actually talk strategy, they're just like, just do it for me. I'm hiring to do it. Like, you need to tell us what's going on. You need to help us. What are the questions you're getting? Are these leads the right kind of leads? Because we can get you more leads. And people are always like, your traffic's going up, your lead's going up, SEO's winning, but like sales are going down. So you want to have those conversations and really dial in the customization of what you're doing, but these people are too busy to talk to you.
Right.
And those, I don't think, are anywhere near as successful as the ones that are engaged and they do want to talk strategy and they do want to look forward. And they do, even though like we don't have contracts, we're month to month. We have to earn business every month. And some people treat it as month to month, and they're like, all right, cool, I'm here. Some people are like, I'm not going anywhere. Let's talk about what our strategy is for the next 2 years. And I think those are the ones that are more successful because they're more engaged, they're more bought into this SEO thing is helping my business.
Do you find the same thing, Cindy?
Yes, to some degree. So we have different models of business a little bit. But I do think that the customers that are the most successful are the ones that are wanting to work collaboratively and understand that it's not like I don't wish, pray, and do dances to make the rankings improve. Like
I do. I have a whole dance.
Like,
you don't do it?
Well, I mean, I do it.
Can we,
I do it.
Okay, show of hands on or show of green if you want to see the dance right now. Come on, help me out. Put those greens in. Now you got to show us. The crowd wants it.
My ranking dance? And then automatic feature snippet.
Okay, please on
You
the
have
video.
to nail the turn. For the audio audience, I just did a terrible dance. I'm so happy. you're
But
not here to
please,
see
can
it.
we somehow get the video team to make that into an animated GIF that I can show you with for the rest
It's like
of
the
the
baby dancing,
Yeah.
like GIF.
I forget where I am right now.
But wait, so yes, so collaboration is important because the clients that just hire you and be like, I paid you $5,000. Why am I not ranking for Toyota Camry? It's like because you didn't do what I said to do, or because your developer like tried but screwed it up and then pretended that they didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
You know.
And I do think it has to be collaborative because, like you were saying, like I've definitely had it with clients where I look at all the data and all the data is telling me we're winning. Yeah, we've got tons of leads, tons of clicks, tons of whatever, and then I talk to them and I'm like, so how did those leads go? And I literally had a client was like, oh, we didn't get more calls, did we? Like. Julie, and she was like, oh, I'm not sure. I was on vacation. And they're like, oh, I didn't. So they were literally like, there was no one there to answer the phone. We were sending phone calls and there was no one there to answer the phone. So like, if they don't tell you what's happening on the other end of the funnel, you can't complete the funnel. And like, if they don't make money, you don't make money. So you have to work in collaboration. And yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
We have a lot of people who are clients listening to this podcast. Not right now, like eventually when this comes out. So if you're listening to the podcast, talking to the audio audience, like you're all here. But if you're a client, communicate with your SEOs.
I've had clients, I was going to jump in. I've had clients that try and sneak things by me intentionally, and they're like, oh yeah, we didn't want SEO for this, so we duplicated all our product pages and put them on a separate domain. But we don't want SEO for that, so don't worry about it. And like keeping secrets from your SEO team is like keeping secrets from your doctor. It's not going to help you.
Good for you. Oh yeah, we're going to migrate the site tomorrow. I was like, what?
Yeah,
Sorry, what was
surprise.
that?
Yeah.
What?
Don't do that.
So if you have clients and they're not, and okay, they're communicating with you, but they're a little bit concerned of what's going on. How do you walk them off that cliff?
So again, I think because of our model of we're month to month, we're really centered in on the relationship that we build with our clients. And it's not always rainbows and unicorns. You're going to have months where traffic goes down. And some of our clients have a very like kind of seasonal business where it'll be up for a few months and then they know it's going to be down for the next 6 months. And it's more about on our side, we found that it's better to build that relationship so that they trust us and they know that like, hey, if my traffic just dropped 20% since last month for whatever reason, I trust that this team is there to help me, because so many people have bad experiences from other agencies in the past that just do the BS checklist SEO that doesn't do anything, and if you're lucky to get on a call once a month with some account manager who probably changes every 2 months, and you just have this bad experience, so then you inherently mistrust all digital marketing moving forward. So we work really hard to establish that trust so that they know we are the experts, we are in this with you, we are a partner, we're not a vendor, because we care, because we've got to earn that business every month so that we don't have to fire people or lay people off. So we work on that customer service, and I think that really overcomes, and like I was joking about the weird customer calls, we don't get that often because the people that work with us choose to work with us because they trust that we are the solution and we are on top of these massive changes in volatility of the SERPs and different features that pop up and what's going on with local and new things that are coming out specifically just for car dealers in the business profile that other businesses can't do. Like, they just trust that we're on top of things for them. And I think where I work now, that's a different frame of mind than agencies I've worked for in the past, where it was more about your leads are up, your traffic's up, so hey, this is working, guys. And then people are mad and they're leaving, and it's the same checklist stuff for everybody due to the nature of some of the things that happen in automotive. And so I love where I am now, where it's more about let's build this mutually beneficial long-term relationship. Even though it's a month-to-month thing, we assume that clients are going to be with us for a minimum of 2 to 2.5 years, and we operate that way, and it gets into their head that like, oh yeah, this is a long-term relationship, and they are on our team. They're not just some vendor that we pay money to.
Yeah.
So I think that's made the biggest difference for us.
Yeah, and it's a huge deal. It's the EEAT for your clients.
Yeah.
I hate to use an SEO term, but it's an SEO conference.
So I think in terms of the audience, like, do you find that like from a month to month that actually that the stats, so purple for the stats and green for the relationship, makes the difference between your relationships with, or the outcomes for your clients? Got a lot of green.
Wow, it's all pretty much green.
A lot of green,
Wow.
and I've seen this happen before, and I think it's really. And I got Sean, who's in our customer relationships, manages that, and he's like, "Yep, green."
He's still
all day,
holding up the
all
green.
Day,
You
all
can't
day
see
green,
it.
all day
Yeah.
green, and things. And I think you talked about like the partnership element of the customer relationships things, and you also talked a little bit about marketing, about that as well. Do you find that you need to help clients to navigate a few different channels in order to like manage all of the different things that are happening in the SERP and on Google?
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of our clients, they work with us because they know that we've got a lot of top level experts. Like, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm the best SEO in the world, but like, I speak at a lot of conferences. I'm friends with all of the other top experts. Like, we just kind of have a better level of connection to what's going on than a lot of the crappy checklist SEO people they've worked with in the past. So they come to us knowing that like, look, I know I need SEO. I know I need Facebook ads. I know I need YouTube pre-roll or whatever it would be, but I don't know how to do it and we haven't had success before. Can you help us? And they also trust us that when something comes out that's new, we can say, hey, look, here's this new thing that you can do that's awesome. Like, they just released LSAs for auto repair in California and Florida. So we came to all of our clients, we're like, look, LSAs are kind of a crapshoot. Maybe it's great, maybe it's not. Sometimes it's expensive, sometimes it's cheap, but this just came out for you and it's the first time you can do it. You need to be a first to market so that people are gonna see you first and it's gonna be amazing. And they're all like, oh my gosh, thanks. I never would have known that was available if you hadn't come to us with that. And our team specifically wants to do that collaborative partnership approach as opposed to we're getting on a call, we're looking you up in our CRM to remember what the last call was about so we can pretend like we know you. Like, we're really focused on, we want to build that long-term relationship with the clients we work with so they get that trust, and we don't really have a lot of that, oh my gosh, there was an update, what do I do? Or, oh my gosh, what happened here, you know?
And I think I see you nodding along, Cindy. I know that you've been like a big proponent of Google Merchant Center and people using additional channels to mix in with the SEO.
Absolutely. I think that like looking at LSA, even though it's not SEO, like looking at just what's available is super important. Our job as SEOs is not just to do SEO, but to know the things that affect SEO. And when LSAs come in, they push organic rankings down. And so that's not to say that we just need to get mad about it. We say, okay, that's pushing organic down, so do LSAs. Like it's not a pie like that where we have to like SEO loses because there's something new in there. You can leverage all of it for a huge benefit. So yeah, keeping an eye on everything that's coming into a search result should be part of like how you envision your job, whether you can impact it with organic stuff or not. You need to know what's there that might be taking traffic.
Speaking of what's coming into search, I don't know if you saw, but SG has been released like 120 countries. So our last unsolved SEO mystery is going to be about SGE, and we're doing it in a little segment we call From the Top of the SERP. I think we both like analyzing what's happened, what's working for sites that are ranking, what's changing at the top of the SERP, like LSAs. And we have a little segment we do where we kind of run through what's changing, what sites are doing that are ranking well, what they're not doing, and how you can kind of improve. But in this case, our From the Top of the SERP is SGE because it's literally, it's at the top of the SERP. So to help us, yeah, you see what I did?
That's clever.
Yeah, I'm a master of pivots, right? And as a podcaster, you have to pat yourself on the back for the pivoting, which, yeah, thank you. Which ruins the whole pivot, but it doesn't matter. To help us navigate the wide world of SGE, he's the only person outside of Joe Biden who can rock aviator shades the way that he does. He's sitting right there. He is the one, the only mic, or drop the mic, king.
Where's my band?
Oh, you're not mic'd up, I forgot.
What up? What are we talking about?
Aviator shades.
Oh, I mean, it's bright up here.
It's so bright. Obviously, you're in the audience. It's so bright. I'm blinded.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey, good to see you.
You guys, Cindy is the smartest SEO ever. I've been saying it for years. It's a fact. Clap for that.
What do you feel about Greg, though?
Greg's cool.
I love that you're holding the mic like you're rapping, man.
It's the only way to hold it. But nah, I love Greg too because he's like such a great, energetic presenter, and he's been riding the whole movie thing for 10 years, and it doesn't get old. I'm not even
just
playing.
do that
Like,
to
it's
keep
dope.
myself entertained more
Yeah,
than
it's
anything
dope.
else.
It's dope.
Get out of the USP.
There are new movies, right? So like, there's always.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have to update it every year.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, it's good.
So SGE,
Heard of it?
y'all in the audience, are you worried about it? Green if you're worried about SGE.
Green is not a worry color.
What? I'm sorry.
Purple's more a worry color.
I was saying we should switch it up. See?
Yo,
See?
we just have to pick one. There's
No,
two options.
purple if
Okay.
you're worried. Purple
Now they're
if you're worried
confused. They're
about
like, we're not doing
SGE.
this.
Purple if you're worried, green if you're not.
Sean's worried.
Sean's worried.
Sean's very worried about the SGE. Are you worried?
No.
Do you worry about anything?
No, I don't.
So that's a bad question then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's an opportunity, right? Like, just like when feature snippets came out and everyone was like, oh, our traffic's going to die, blah, blah, blah. But it's just, I think the reality of it is, one, how people are meeting their information needs is changing dramatically. So it's not just Google, it's ChatGPT, it's TikTok, it's all these things. And I think we as SEOs need to like kind of grow or evolve into like these findability experts where we got to learn like the interplay of channels and how to optimize for the different channels and so on. Because undoubtedly your clients are going to be like, hey, TikTok has a search. What do we do? You can't just be like, we only do local search. Like, nah, I mean, you can do it. but like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to have an answer to some degree. And I'm not saying you need to be an expert in every channel, but like search fundamentally works the same everywhere, right? Like, There's a determination of relevance, there's a determination of user signals to reinforce those things. So what is it that happens in TikTok that we need to be doing? So findability is definitely like our future, but I think for SGE, you know, users never wanted 10 results.
Right.
They wanted an answer.
Right.
And so Google is like, cool, let's give you an answer. It's not perfect right now, but like, it's a good step in that direction. So there was a paper written by this guy. His name is Andre. I can't remember his last name, but
The Giant?
no. And he's been at Google since, like, he came from Alta Vista to Google with people like Jeff Dean and all these people. And he's the guy that invented the informational, transactional, navigational query classification.
Right.
And he wrote this paper recently about what are called Delphic costs. And so a Delphic cost is like effectively the mental cost that you go through to get a search result.
Yes.
And what he's talking about is like, yo, no one ever wanted to have to like go through 10 results and be like, is this right? Is this what I'm looking for? So Google has always tried to answer your question, and it makes sense that they're going more in this direction.
Right, and I think it's interesting because I think they're competing with so many more search engines now. We used to have a segment on the podcast called "So Many Search Engines."
We still have it.
We haven't done it in ages, but there's so many different ways to answer a question now. So like the prime example I use, like for ChatGPT, I use a lot because George, who was on here earlier, tried to teach me how to play Magic the Gathering, and
Get your mana.
this is the thing. I was struggling. I'm like, can I play this with summoning sickness? Is there trample? I don't understand. I'm very confused. Like, am I a wizard? I don't know what's going on. And basically, there's been a lot of SEO'd content around Magic the Gathering, like 4,000, 7,000 words about the thing. And I'm like, can I play this turn? And it's much easier for me to just like literally talk into my phone and go, I have this guy with this mana. Can I play this on this turn, or can I not, or whatever? And then the ChatGPT will just go yes or no, rather than me having to read through 17 pages of content. And
Word.
Like, that the SGE, if it's able to do that for some of that kind of content, that's a win.
Are you saying we've ruined the internet?
No, no.
Put up a green if you're a content goblin. Nobody read that shit.
Wait. Can we do a green if we ruined the internet?
Okay.
Did SEOs ruin the internet? Green if we've ruined the internet, according to The Verge we have.
No.
Oh, some people think so.
Ooh.
Some people say yes. Some people
Wow.
say
Maybe just you ruined the internet.
It's that guy.
That's you.
You woke up in the morning, it's like, you know what I'm gonna do today?
Ruin it? It's like Pinky in the brain.
Yeah, but I mean, I think to your point, Crystal, right? Like we as SEOs, we can't unsee what it is that we do.
Right.
And so when you're looking for something important and you're like, well, someone clearly optimized this.
Right.
Some like junior copywriter wrote this about, you know, whether or not I have cancer. I'm skipping this result.
Right.
Like I think that is a reality of the internet. And, you know, people do have a sense of like, is this authentic? And, you know, it's why we're like, okay, well, I have this ailment. Where's the WebMD? Or where's like, you know, Mayo Clinic or something like that. You don't trust what's on the web, but there's a lot of people that do, which is a problem, right? I think the standard audience is like, well, if Google says it, it must be real.
Right.
And I think that's one of the problems with SGE is because sometimes it's not right.
Right.
And, you know, it being Google, you inherently trust it, and so you're going to get bad information in those cases.
But don't you think right now it's not out, it's still beta, because they want people to start thinking that way, but by the time it's really officially out and in use, it's going to be way better than what it is right now.
I agree
Or do
with
you
that.
not think that?
No, I agree with that. But, you know, language models inherently have the ability to hallucinate.
Yeah.
You know, the way the SGE is built, it's like it's taking the results and then using that to fine tune the language model to give you the actual response, but it can still be wrong. And so I don't know that the current generation of that technology is good enough to solve that problem.
No, I totally agree. And that's like everybody talks about SGE with us, and we're like, it's not coming out soon. Like, stop worrying about it. Like, it's got to get better before it's going to be
So then
public.
what does it look like in the end? Like when it goes live, it's out of beta. What does it forget? Like the type of content, what does it even freaking look like? Because they've changed it.
Looks like
10
freaking
times.
Star Trek, man.
I'm wearing Star Trek socks.
We're
dude.
going to talk to our
Yeah.
computer in a conversational way and get the answer that we want for most of the stuff. Because if you just want an answer, like you said a minute ago, you don't want to read through a bunch of. You want the answer.
I think it looks like a Google Home Hub with like a knowledge graph and an answer and filters so you can drill down more, and not 10 blue links or maybe any blue links or just a couple blue links. But I wanted to build on what Mike was saying is, like, I think when SGE came out, Google created part of its own problem by not doing citations, because like when you cite someone, then you could be like, we didn't say it, they said it. Right? But when Google wasn't doing citations, then it's Google's fault.
Right.
They're going to have to do citations for any number of reasons, but the legal one and the getting it right or wrong is going to be a big part of that.
Can I ask you, okay, but about the citations and about updating content, publishers are now going to block things like Bard, right? And they're not going to.
Why? That's so short-sighted.
I agree, but I think because it's spiteful. I think because they can.
But they can't, because if you block Bard, which you have to block Googlebot in general for, you're still going to get crawled by the Common Crawl, which is a data source that's used for training. So it's like, it's a Pyrrhic victory for you to do that.
And you're just going to get ripped off. Someone else
going to do it. No, I'm with you.
Agree, but one of the things that I think we don't pay enough attention to is that search is also a branding channel, right? Like if you are searching for something and then there's a featured snippet and your brand is mentioned amongst other brands that are in that consideration set, that is a good thing for mindshare. If you're not there because you want to just block, Google from learning from your content as though it's so precious, you're shooting yourself in the foot. It's stupid.
I think it's like the most under talked about thing in the SEO world. That as a personal, I am on a soapbox about this. Content, fundamentally, it's yes, there's acquisitional content, but a lot of your content is branding content.
Oh yeah.
A lot. And it's important
Facts.
to think about it like that.
And I think you talked about how that shows on the SERP and how that shows with things. And I think that brings me to a question for the audience in terms of the SERP at SGE. Do you think you can optimize? Like, can you optimize for SGE? Are you optimizing for SGE? Green for yes, and purple for no.
The people who said green is mostly green. Maybe want to offer Greg some strategies so we can share them with his client.
Okay, can we adjust the question?
Okay.
How many, if you had a green up, hold it up higher still. So we keep the green up, so you're optimizing for SGE. How many of you, keep it up. How many of you that have it up, you're answering this because you're doing something different than you were doing before, specifically for SGE, or you got it up because you're like, bro, I was doing good SEO anyway. And everybody put their cards down.
He did.
Right.
For the audio audience, there was 3 people who said yes.
But like for the audio audience, most of the people that had it up put it back down because like doing the stuff for SGE, if you're doing legitimate SEO now, you're not really having to change that much.
Mike,
you're like, bro, not
I
really.
can see you squirming in your seat right now.
I don't squirm. Come on. Don't make the people in listener world think that.
Sorry, I take it back. Hey, Aaron, can we edit that part out? And the audio, the jury, forget what I just said. Stricken from the record.
But I'm curious what you have to say about this.
No, I mean, I think it goes back to things, again, about Cindy being the smartest SEO ever. She was talking about Fraggles like 5 years ago. And Fraggles are basically the components of the content, the passages of the content that Google has identified as most relevant and is then serving it to the language model to then determine what to say in the response. And so in SGE, if you click on the carousel, like the links in the carousel, it has the Fraggle, what do you call it, the component at the end of the URL? It's like the anchor link to the actual
link.
Fraggle.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Fragment.
And then it'll take you specifically to the line of text that Google has used. And so what I've done in my analysis of this is we've pulled those Fraggles for a bunch of pages and then compared it against the AI snapshot. And the one that has the highest cosine similarity, the one that's most relevant, is the one that ranks best in the carousel. And so it's really about optimizing those Fraggles and identifying them if you want to get more visibility in those.
So then, ultimately speaking, when
Should I just drop the mic then?
No, in 9 minutes and 53 seconds.
He's like, no, don't break my equipment.
You break it, you buy it, by the way.
I can afford it.
So ultimately speaking, then I have to ask, I hate this question, we're gonna ask it anyway. How does SGE impact traffic?
We don't know yet.
What do you think?
Yeah, we've been modeling it, and it's like 30 to 40% based on a variety of different factors. But there's no way to know. We don't have any user behavior data on it, right? Like, we don't have anything in GSE. We don't I don't even know that SimilarWeb has anything yet. If they do, holler at me. Let's figure it out. But we don't know. So it's really, we got to wait and see until we get actual data.
By the way, code red for the SEO tools. They need to figure this out because they're becoming.
It's already a code red for them. So, and I was just talking about this in the other room. Google shifted to semantic search 10 years ago. All of our SEO tools are still in the lexical model. So really, we are not doing something relevant to how stuff works right now. Effectively, we are still just making great content, and Google is figuring it out. And we're just messing around with all these tools that still do TF-IDF. So it's actually kind of silly what we're doing as an industry right now.
But also all those tools and the weather tools and stuff like that, as far as I know, they're still focusing a lot on desktop results when more searches are happening on mobile. Just more.
Facts.
Also, their keyword data sets are years old. They're almost irrelevant.
Sorry, guys. Everything you're paying for is a waste of money.
But I think in terms of click-through rate, and here's a question: Do you think that maybe to the audience as well? Do you think that for the SGE, that brands who have a well-established brand will be less affected by a drop in clicks on the SGE? Green for yes, purple for no. Is that too complicated a question?
Say it again.
I'm sure
Green
yes.
if it's too complicated.
So what I've experienced, talking to some of these, going through some of these AI SERPs and tools, is that you sometimes get a repeat of people on a certain topic. So I was trying to use Bard to figure out why my plant was dying. And what I found was that there was the same website that kept getting referenced for all of the different questions that I had about this plant. And at the end of the day, I was like, well, I'm just going to go to the website because they've answered 3 of the questions already. So they probably have the whole bit of information there. So do you think that the brand overlap, where people are getting that visibility in the SERP a lot, if that's going to make a difference between actually getting the click through?
Yes and no. So what you're describing is actually a function of the context window, right? If you're asking Bard a bunch of questions about the same thing, all of those answers and questions are informing the next response. And so whatever they looked up, because Bard is effectively a retrieval augmented generation implementation where it's just searching Google, same way that SGE does, based on your question, which is using as a prompt, and then it's saying, okay, these are the pages that are most relevant to it. And so the original pages from your first questions remain in that context as you ask subsequent questions. So that's part of why that same website kept coming up over and over. But is that going to impact, search or SGE rather? Yes, it will on the follow-up questions. Because again, the follow-up questions is bringing that context window concept to search.
So then do you think it'll be more important for people to rank for those first questions?
Absolutely, and I think it's going to require that the content you create be more robust. So rather than, the whole long tail strategy where it's I'm gonna make 100 pages for 100 queries, you may need to make 20 pages for 5 queries each. So then that page answers several of those questions and remains in that context window.
But Google is crowdsourcing what they call these journeys, right?
Right.
And this came out when we started talking about MUM. And so they're looking at people who are using Bard or just using regular search to understand why their plant is dying. And they're saying, oh, lots of people have an aloe plant and it's looking like this, and here's the right journey. And I think they'll fine tune. And I think at some point we'll get to a point where Google will try and add diversity to not just show the same website over and over again, and then a QDF kind of query deserves freshness or whatever. They're going to be honing these things in a similar model to what we've seen them go through historically with the current kinds of results. Don't you think so?
Yep.
So then do you think as part of thinking about the way we create content within this space that understanding the user journey rather than just the keyword, as you were saying, or even just the semantics is going to be a critical point?
Yeah, and I think to Greg's point, we've at least at iPullRank, we've been on that for a long time, right? Like I was on that persona-driven keyword research back in like 2012, and that's been how we've always done it. And so Google is just making it more explicit, like, hey, these search journeys actually matter, and we are building around that because we understand that people are searching to fulfill a specific need. They're not just keywords, right? Like they are people doing a series of things so they can do something in the real world.
It almost turns into like almost like an entity-based optimization.
Yes.
Which is like, I know
exactly.
you're gonna, yeah.
But also when they've mapped that journey and they've modeled the journey, their processors don't have to work so hard for the next, the estimation of what's gonna come next. And so they can be working in the background to get that information, serve it faster, which they're always like trying to serve things faster.
Yeah, and to Greg's earlier point, like SGE being a test is largely so that they can get the data that they need and also cache a lot of these responses, which is another reason why it's gotten a lot faster since it first rolled out.
Wait a minute. So are you saying Google does something and tells SEOs about it to get us to give them more data? No way. No way.
So go back to what you said earlier before about whether or not the LLMs are actually capable of spitting out content that's going to be good, ultimately speaking. At a certain point, I feel like they're going to end up with a problem because I don't think it's going to be, and they're not going to backtrack on using SGE and putting it out there, and you're going to end up, I think, in a situation where you're going to have a lot of great answers coming out of the SGE, and you're going to have a lot of garbage coming out of the SGE.
I feel like you just led me in your question. What do you want me to say?
What happens to the ecosystem? How are they going to handle that?
I think the bigger problem is that we're at a space where all content moving forward is like inherently polluted. And what I mean by that is like there's a cutoff on what content is from November of last year,
right,
because it's like pre-ChatGPT.
Right.
And so there's a lot of stuff out there that's not accurate. I mean, there already was, but like it's accelerating at such a rate that Google has had to solve that. And that's where the helpful content update comes into play. And I think that the primary mechanism that they have to use to understand this is information gain. Because, you know, with ChatGPT, you're regurgitating things in different ways, more or less, unless you're doing a RAG model or something like that. And so Google is trying to sift through to say, like, where is the net new information here? It can't just be like, okay, well, we have 500 pages about flossing, like you said, and everyone is just like, here's how you floss. So what do you rank? Like, yes, we can go back to links and all of that, but like, Google has to understand, like, where is there something new? Otherwise, users aren't going to feel like search quality is good enough.
I think that's great. I'm just conscious that we need to wrap up. And I think like it's fantastic, and thank you so much. So a big hand to all of our guests who have given us such amazing things. And before we wrap up, I just like to the audience, green for yes and purple for no, if you'd like to see Morty do his ranking dance again.
Y'all better put your greens up.
Right?
I don't remember what I did. My mic being fell.
So now we'll have two different gifts.
Hold on, I
to show you
gotta
with
like get like in the zone. Wait, like, can I do a different one?
I
Please
don't
do.
know.
I'm gonna do my Axl Rose.
Do the featured snippet dance.
Oh my gosh! Please make a gif of this.
Yo, this is Donald Trump campaign energy right here.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, fantastic, bright SEO. Thank you so much.
Bye.